بسم الله الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن اتبع سنته إلى يوم الدين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, in continuing on with the topic of the khutbah today, we're going to discuss the tafsir of surah, or the beginning of the tafsir of Surah Abasa wa Tawalla, Surah Abasa number 80 in the Quran. Now we're going to use this particularly because it highlights a prime example of not only a prophetic example, but an example of where showing us how we should react and carry ourselves when dealing with different demographics of our community. So, a backstory to the reason why the surah was revealed. The Prophet ﷺ was in the time prior to Hijrah living in Mecca, and the numbers of the Muslims were very low, and the Muslims at the time were very weak. This surah was revealed of the very first surahs. I think it was like 25 or 26, I forget exactly. But it was very early on in Islam. And because of this, many companions were getting tortured and tormented simply because they had accepted a new religion. So the Prophet ﷺ, in his wanting good for his community, in being just the leader of a community, was trying to find ways to put his community in a better situation. So he was going to noblemen of Quraysh, his own tribe. He was going to noblemen of different cities a little bit later on, trying to find people who would support the Muslims. So at this time, the Prophet ﷺ is at the Kaaba, which is the center of Mecca. To give you a better understanding of Mecca, specifically in that time, Jazakallah khair, Allah yanur alayk. The Kaaba was the center of the city, and around it were homes, immediately around it. Actually, for those who have been to Umrah or have been to the Kaaba, actually where the holy mosque is today is probably, or was probably, the entire city of Mecca at that time. So this was the whole city of Mecca. And the Prophet ﷺ is at the Kaaba trying to speak to the noblemen of Quraysh, giving them da'wah, trying to get their support, just so that he would have people to defend his community. So while he's giving them da'wah, one of his companions comes asking questions zealously. But this is just one person. I think I mentioned before that if we were to look at it purely from a humanistic standpoint, we're looking at or comparing between leaders of society and one blind man. So from a humanistic standpoint, even if many of us were in those shoes today, we'd probably focus our attention on the people of high stature in hopes that it'll make things easier for other people, in hopes that by them accepting Islam, many people will also accept Islam with them, in hopes it'll bring safety and ease to the Muslims. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and us all with the revelation of this surah. So Ibn Maktoum is coming asking for guidance of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ just looked away. He wasn't disrespectful in how he dealt with him, because we know he was Khair al-Khalq and he had the best of manners. But he just looked away. So imagine our governor, maybe a rapper, a musician were to come, and we're, engaging them. They're feeling the message. We're engaging them in hopes that maybe they'll put out one Snapchat and 100 people will become Muslim. But he's dealing with the actual leaders of society at that time so that their small community will be safe. It isn't like today where there's hundreds of thousands of big communities, just small community. And the Prophet ﷺ frowned and turned away. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he first revealed the surah, after Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, he says, Abasa wa tawalla. He, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, he frowned and turned away. In ja'ahu al-a'ma. When the blind man came to him. وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى. Allah then he says, and how will you know that this man won't be, and the word that is used is yazakka, from tazkiyah, which translates to mean to be purified. So how do you not know that this one man's life will not be changed by you giving da'wah to him? Now if we pause here for a second, and we're looking at the situation the Prophet ﷺ was in, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was trying to teach him to redirect his focus. Because when we are thinking about society at large, we may think about, as I mentioned in the khutbah, getting politicians, entertainers, police officers, these big high-ranking people to support our community in hopes that it will be a shield from attacks from other people, whether it be Islamophobia or other things, or that maybe the other people accept Islam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam here that it's not about numbers, it's about quality. Not quantity, the quality. That how do you know that giving da'wah to this one man, showing him some attention, won't make him turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or won't purify, removing what he had in his chest? أو يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى. Oh, that perhaps you'll remind him of something and he'll be benefited from it. So not just that he'll be saved or he'll be purified in this message. Maybe you'll just say one thing that'll benefit him. So this is a huge paradigm shift when thinking about who we're going to focus on in our da'wah. And specifically to the Prophet ﷺ. It's not about the quality, or not about the quantity or the status of a person, it's about the quality. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوْ يَذَّكِّرُ فَتَنْفَعُهُ الذِّكْرَى أَمَّا مَنِ اسْتَغْنَى. So as for the people who are well off, فَإِسْتَغْنَى here can mean someone who is not in need. If I don't need water, استغنيت عن الماء. I'm not in need of water. وَلَّهِ الْحَمْدِ. But it can also come from the word ghani, someone who's rich. So when he's talking about now the wealthy people in society, Quraysh, the one who the Prophet ﷺ is dealing with, he says, so as for these people, فَأَنْتَ لَهُ تَصَدَّى. You're trying to go out and talk to them. You're dealing with them specifically. وَمَا عَلَيْكَ أَلَّا يَزَّكَّى. And how do you know that they will be purified? Allah specifically switching this paradigm shift of who the Prophet ﷺ is dealing with. وَأَمَّا مَنْ جَاءَكَ يَسْعَى. As for the man who came, or the person who came to you, يَسْعَى, seeking, he's trying hard to get some benefit from you. وَهُوَ يَخْشَى. And he's in fear, he's in a state of khashya, in fear, in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأَنْتَ عَنْهُ. But you to him are turning away, or you're Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, you're busied from this man. Kalla innaha tadhkira. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, this is a reminder. فَمَنْ شَاءَ ذَكَرَ. And whoever wills should be reminded of this. فِي صُحُفٍ مُكَرَّمَةٍ. In the tablets, the noble or the lofty tablets. مَرْفُوعَةٍ مُطَهَّرَةٍ. Raised and pure. بِأَيْدٍ سَفَرَةٍ كِرَامٍ بَرَرَةٍ. Just praising these people. So when we're thinking about who we go after in our society or in our environment, giving da'wah to, it should purely be about who wants it and who can benefit from it. We shouldn't be looking at social economic status, but those people who need some service. And it isn't always about, as I mentioned in the khutbah earlier, financial service. It can be time. Inshallah, after I finish, we're going to make the winter blessing bags for the homeless people, which is an awesome initiative, and I really thank ICNA Relief for doing this. It's something, while I was in Saudi, I saw it on Facebook and was like, yo, I wish I could participate in that. And Allahu Akbar, Sister Malika and ICNA Relief, they're doing an awesome job. They're already getting it started. But just our time, donating that. You know, one of my mentors, he told me before I came home from seminary, and we were talking about da'wah, and I was very spunky, and I'm like, yo, I want to give da'wah, I want to help people. And he said, giving da'wah is being Muslim. And I was like, what? Like, I just studied for like 10 years so that I can go back and preach to people. He said, no, your da'wah is just being Muslim, nothing else. You being a good person, a benefit to society, is enough of an example and a big enough da'wah that you fulfilled your obligation. When sisters, may Allah preserve you and strengthen you, go out in your hijab, and people see you in your hijab, that is da'wah. Hands down. Just walking down the streets, you guys do much more than we do. I have a kufi on, it could be a weird hat that some dude wears. So may Allah preserve you, because we as brothers, and I'm not just saying this because, never mind, but truly I believe it, because my wife, my mother, my sister go out in society wearing hijab. I know it's not easy. So may Allah preserve you and strengthen you in your struggle to do this. But also brothers as well. We have to be a good example in society. I was at a brother's house last night, and he said for Thanksgiving, his wife baked little things of bread, and they passed them out to all their neighbors. And it just said, from our family, Happy Thanksgiving. Very small. It wasn't like with a da'wah pamphlet tucked inside, you know, come to the mosque on Thursdays, we have the class or whatever. It just was a little loaf of bread for you from our family. We're neighbors. We love you. And subhanAllah, he said, just from these little loaves of bread, everyone was happy, including their neighbor who has a huge Trump sign outside. They were warm and welcome. And the next day, someone left a package with like books, another gift just to them. This is our da'wah. Being Muslims in America, our da'wah is just being good people, good members of society, setting a good example. But as I mentioned in the khutbah, we cannot forget the demographic of our society who often is left out. We cannot forget the poor. And I don't say poor, I wanted to highlight this in the khutbah. I don't mean to talk down to anyone. In a Sharia or an Islamic standpoint, being poor or saying that someone is poor is not something that is shameful. Actually, it's good that we know who the poor are so they don't have to ask. So that we can go ahead and give them finances. There's a specific part of zakat that is assigned to the poor people. And in an idealistic or utopian Islamic society, the poor should be taken care of. In the time of Umar ibn Khattab, when he was the Khalifa, and this was just less than 10 years after the Prophet ﷺ had died, the Muslim Ummah had given out so much zakah that they had to search for people to give zakah to. And they couldn't find people. And I remember seeing a stat, and I can't remember the exact quote, but if everyone, the richest 10 people or so, were to pay zakah as we have it in the Sharia, it would relieve hunger in the world. So being poor, I don't say being poor as talking down to someone or looking down at anyone. Because as I mentioned in the khutbah, we are all poor in some shape, form, or fashion. If it's not only in the sight of Allah, if it's not poor in goodness, if it's not poor manners, if it's not poor intentions or poor thoughts of other people we're judging, we're all poor in something. And we can all improve in some way or another. So I don't say poor talking down to people. But we have to remember those who are less fortunate than us. And by truly garnering their love, in their affection, that will not only strengthen us as a community, but it will truly give us victory, as in the hadith I mentioned in the khutbah, and success. And I just threw out a few names that, alhamdulillah, a couple people caught and they asked me about later. But the Nation of Islam, the Black Panther Party, how taboo it might be to mention them, whether it be for theological reasons or for the media, whatever people understand about them. What they did in the communities, empowering people, changed the face of the society for decades. Some people until now. Wallahi, a few years ago on the time of Hajj, I met some people who were former generals in the Nation of Islam. Some were bodyguards for Elijah Muhammad. These were big shots. They had all, majority of them had moved on into Sunni Islam. But because of them being around these figures and in the movement, serious and wholeheartedly, they had businesses that were still up and running. They had stable families. They had a sense of morals that really uplifted the community. The Black Panther Party, as taboo as it might be, wasn't only focused on African Americans. They had health clinics that were serving the entire society. If you went to Oakland, you could go to one of their clinics and get help. They had food kitchens. They also had security, protecting one another. And I mention this not trying to talk down upon us or over glorifying what they did, but these are examples not too long ago that we can do. We can start soup kitchens. I saw a video on Facebook about a mobile soup kitchen they have in the UK. It's like a food truck that is a mobile soup kitchen, and it goes around London giving out food to the homeless. And they've got it set up where it doesn't need anyone, it's self-funded. And they have multiple trucks just giving out food. It's not branded as Super Islam Food Truck, we're serving the poor. Maybe it has an Arabic name, I don't even remember. But the goal was just to help society. And these can be initiatives that we can take amongst ourselves that don't necessarily have to be non-profit initiatives. They can be for-profit where you can feed you and your family, like Tom's. Everybody knows about Tom's. But when each person buys a shoe, it gives a shoe to other people. These are, I forget the exact economic term, but these are for-profit businesses that give back to the community. So I mention these things just to, as I told the brother right before the lecture, not to revolutionize our community. We're not going to tomorrow, Jack in the Box style, open up a soup kitchen and have the best masjid ever, but just to spark ideas in everyone. A lot of times, even for myself, when we're looking about or thinking about the stories of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, it can seem far-fetched. We can look and think man, they were just awesome though. They were around the Prophet ﷺ. They did it, I hope that we can do it. Or we might look at people from different religions like, well, they have years of establishment and they're well organized. We can do it too. If African Americans that have gone through slavery and then Jim Crow, segregation, were able to unite in the hood of Oakland and organize. And Oakland is one of the worst parts of NorCal until today. Highest crime rate. If you don't know Oakland, it's horrible, but it's awesome. It's so much culture, so much everything. Visit Oakland. So if African Americans who have gone through so much were able to do that, and they weren't taken down until it was COINTELPRO, which is another talk that is taboo in itself. But they were able to do that, then what about us? If the Nation of Islam, whatever you want to believe about them and their theology, that's not what we're talking about right now. But if they were able to mobilize people and have young men wear suits and bow ties and stand on the corner and have a legitimate business, which even today is laughed at, that's major. If you sit with the old heads, the elders in the community, and mashallah, you guys have it here in Roxbury, or in Boston in general, and in Roxbury. Go to Mesh Quran. There's plenty of brothers and sisters who have been through the movement, who know about it, who can tell you how things were. Muhammad Ali Shabazz, he'll give you the history. Imam Talib Mahdi, he'll give you the history. Imam Abdullah Farooq, they'll give you the history of how they were able to mobilize and do things. And it was by the youth. They were able to serve the less fortunate people of community by the youth. When the Black Panther Party started, what was his name? Allahumma salli Muhammad, I forget his name. Huey P. Newton. If you ever want to remember the names of the guys in the Boondocks cartoon, Huey P. Newton was a graduate of college. I think he was about 26 when he started the initiative. He was 26. That's a year younger than me. That's how many of us, how old we are. They started movements that changed the face of communities until today. So on that note, I encourage everyone to give back to community, to give back to the society, not just the Muslims, everyone. Serve, because it is an integral part of our spirituality. It is so uplifting to help someone who you know is not in a situation, sometimes to even help themselves, to see the gratitude on their face, to be reminded of how awesome of a place we're in and how much blessings we're in right now is a truly humbling feeling. And there's no comparison. For everybody who was there yesterday downtown, they can all testify to it. And specifically about the homeless, and I'm on another tangent, it's cool though. Many of them aren't homeless by choice. It's because there's something that sparked a snowball effect and put them there. It's not because like they just chose to live in this super cool hipster way of lifestyle where they're zuhad, they don't need the dunya and they're gonna live like that. No, whether it's mental illness. Wallahi, I met a guy who had a master's degree at Union Station in DC who happened to be Muslim. I was with some youth at the time. I was about 16 myself. We were at Union Station and he saw us about to pray Maghrib and he was like, Assalamu alaikum, what's going on? And he was so happy to see us as Muslims together, and he was like, yeah, I'm homeless right now. I had a job, a family, everything was right, but it just didn't work out. Many people in our community are on the cusp of homelessness right now. It can be just one thing. 1 month everything changes. And that could be you. That could be me. As youth, we're sort of in a situation where we sometimes have our bubble because we have protection from our family and our extended family where if something happens. Not everyone has that. Not everyone has the ability to reach out to aunties and cousins and uncles and say, yo, I'm down. Can you help me out a little bit? So sometimes just that 1 month can start an effect where you can't get up from it. And then you run up your credit, and then it's American Express, it's debt, and then you're in a situation you never thought you were in. And so it's not for us to look down upon anyone. We need to, on the opposite, put a hand out. Extend the ear. Wallahi, just listening to people many times is sufficient. Even in my position as an imam, I wish I could give everyone everything, which is the hardest part of anyone who's in any position where we're giving back. Sister Malika could probably tell you much better than I could. When someone comes to you needing something, and you want to take the clothes off your own back, sell your watch, your phone, and everything you have, pawn your kids off just so they can be in a better situation. And this, on another tangent, is the situation of some people, some places. I met a brother from St. Lucia, which is an island in the Caribbean, who said there are men who have to literally sell their own daughters into prostitution just to feed their families. So this is real. This is the situation that many people are in. And it's just something, wallahi, it's so hard when people come to us and we can't help. So I want to empower everyone in the community. I'm giving you imams like anointment to start an initiative. And I personally will do everything in my ability to back you. If you want to start a soup kitchen, start a soup kitchen. If you want to find a way to have an infinite number of tea passes, that'll help. If you want to make it so that anyone who comes hungry to the cafe can get free food, boom, that's another idea. If you want to have your number where people who need shoes can get shoes, another idea. If you want to fund an infinite number of winter blessing bags to Sister Malika, we can get all that going. But sometimes it's just, wallahi, just one thing, something small that will make someone's quality of life better. And I say quality of life because a lot of times we take our quality of life into granted. Having clean water, having clothes on our back, having electricity, having a place to sleep, a pillow, toothbrush and toothpaste. These are things that, a lot of times we can just go to CVS, go to Walgreens, pick it up, it's nothing. But when you're in a situation where you have family who's at need, it's sometimes, do I eat today or do I get a toothbrush? Do I feed my kids or do I eat? Do I send money home to my family who's in need or do I buy a new pair of pants? This is the reality.